Good evening, everyone. We'll get started in just a minute or two here. Thank you for joining us. I can't help but type something different. So okay, it looks like we are just about ready to go. I want to welcome you and thank you again for joining us tonight. This is a joint meeting with Gilroy, Morgan Hill, as well as CAL FIRE. My name is Christina Turner, and I'm the city manager for the city of Morgan Hill. And the primary purpose for tonight is to talk about the SCU Lightning Complex fire. And I am very thankful that we're able to do this as a joint meeting. As probably many people on this call know, the cities of Morgan Hill and Gilroy work very closely together on all sorts of things, everything from training to wastewater treatment services to environmental services. I wanted to just say from the get-go that today we've been a little bit nervous about Zoom issues. I guess internationally Zoom has had some issues today, but we're assured that everything is fine right now. So if something happens to our Zoom, you know why. Tonight, you will be hearing from your mayors, from your fire teams, as well as police, and afterwards, we will have time for questions. And first, I would like to introduce the City of Morgan Hill's Mayor, Rich Constantine.
Thank you, Christina, and welcome everyone. I would like to thank CAL FIRE, our police department, and our city teammates. It goes without saying that these are some very trying times. And the smoothness of which these emergencies have been handled really is a testament to our teamwork and also to our teammates. So CAL FIRE, I know you guys are working really hard. As a retired firefighter myself, I don't envy you guys working out in 100-degree heat, but really appreciate you guys keeping us safe. Last night I had an opportunity to speak with a member of the public, and they really wanted for me to express to our police department how grateful they are at how smooth the evacuation was being handled. So I want to give that notification as well. And again, to our city teammates, the analogy I've always given is that you're like a duck on the water, smooth on the surface, but underneath you're paddling like mad. So really want to thank you guys. But none of this would work as smoothly as it has worked if it wasn't for our community. Your willingness and being prepared and ready to evacuate in these trying times has really helped us make this as smooth as possible. So I really want to thank the community for heeding the warnings from CAL FIRE and our police department, being prepared to leave. And then when the evacuation order was given to evacuate in a smooth manner, and now I see that we're probably going to be downgrading that evacuation order. So again, I just want to express how proud I am of our community for coming together and working together. And with that pride, I also want to express my thanks to the Mayor Velasco of Gilroy. Yesterday, Mayor Velasco sent out a text to me personally asking me if I needed anything, please don't hesitate to call. That's one of the things that makes South County so wonderful and so great. So I want to thank Mayor Velasco for reaching out, and of course, vice versa. So with that, I will turn it back over to City Manager Christina Turner.
Thank you so much, Mayor. Now what I'd like to do is introduce to you Jimmy Forbes, and Jimmy is Gilroy's City Administrator, and then he will introduce his team.
Thank you very much, Christina. First of all, I'd like to go ahead and have our Mayor, Roland Velasco, say a few words, and then I'll introduce a couple of our staff members. Go ahead, Mayor.
Thank you. First off, I'd like to thank all residents, Gilroy, Morgan Hill, and the professional staff that we have joining us for this virtual meeting tonight. While fires are not new to Gilroy, this fire, the SCU Lightning Complex fire, is currently the third largest wildfire in California's history. And so to that end, I want to just take a moment to really to thank the firefighters, to thank all of our Gilroy firefighters, to the CAL FIRE firefighters, and to those firefighters who are coming to our area from throughout California. Also, I want to thank the firefighters who are responding to this call for help from states across the West, like Arizona, Idaho, Oregon, and Washington. I also want to thank all of you for your hard work, your expertise, and your efforts in protecting our communities. You people are a blessing, and we really thank you for that. As a former South Santa Clara County Fire Commissioner, I know some of the firefighters personally, and I would ask all firefighters to support each other, to really look out for each other. This fire, as much as we want to get it under control, this fire really isn't a sprint to the finish line. I know all of you guys are in it for the long haul, so please, again, support each other, look out for each other, and be careful. As the mayor for Gilroy, we are supporting firefighting efforts both locally and across the state. We currently have 11 firefighters and 3 engines deployed to the regional efforts and continue to maintain enhanced staffing here locally. While Gilroy does not currently have any evacuation orders in place, residents should still be very vigilant. Be informed by keeping up with the current news, keep up with the updates provided by CAL FIRE and by the City of Gilroy. Be prepared by making plans should an evacuation become necessary. Be responsible by taking actions to protect the safety of our community, such as creating the defensible space around your home or property. And I know that together we can make our community a little bit safer and support the efforts of firefighters as we continue through this very, very challenging time. Lastly, I just want to say on behalf of the entire Gilroy City Council, please stay safe. Jimmy, let me turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I won't add much to what you've heard so far. It is always amazing to me how neighbors help neighbors, and We are very fortunate to have great neighbors just to the north of us. And I do want to pass on to the residents of Gilroy that we are in a little bit different situation than Morgan Hill, but we can learn a lot and we can pay attention because that could be us at any time. So although we have not had an evacuation order, things change very quickly where we live, and change of the wind, change of the weather, or something happens. So please pay attention to the region in general and never feel like, you know, that you're completely safe, especially at this time in nature, what we're dealing with. So please be on the alert. I want to introduce two people to you real quick. First is Police Chief Scott Smithy. He's, wave your hand, Scott, so people can see you. And then second is Fire Chief Mark Bisbee, who's just going to give you a real quick update about some of the things that are going on in Gilroy. Like we stated, we're not in an evacuation situation yet, but we are doing some things to try to support the region and be there for when people need us. So take it away, Chief.
Thank you, Jimmy. Yeah, I just wanted to say that, you know, on the few conversations and Chief Hess, it's amazing that we were able to even talk a little bit over the past few days. I know how busy you've been. We're still upstaffing within the city just due to the area and resource drawdown within the unit and the region. And so our fear isn't necessarily the current fire, it would be the next one. And so we want to be upstaffed and prepared for a strong initial attack if that is necessary. So we've already deployed probably more resources into the mutual aid system than we have in decades. And like I think we've all are experiencing, this is unprecedented. So we want to do everything we can to help. So with that, we have our units deployed, but we're also ready to initial attack anything in the area should that be necessary. And with that, I'll turn it back to Christina, I believe.
Thank you so much. So I want to let everybody know that we have over 1,000 attendees on this call. So that is a good number. And so we're glad that everybody's engaged. I want to just give you a few facts about the fire and share the new update, and then I will be then turning it over to our fire chief. So at this point, the number of acres for the fire is over 347,000 acres. And at this point, we're looking at about 10% contained. I'm going to ask Michelle Bigelow to share her screen right now, and she's going to put up the new interactive evacuation map. And so this map has been updated just recently for the changes in the orders. And so I'm going to go through those right now. So CAL FIRE has downgraded the evacuation area. So the evacuation order has now gone to an evacuation warning, and that's effective immediately. And so that impacts specifically the areas of Holiday Lake Estates, Jackson Oaks, and Thomas Grade. Those areas are now under an evacuation warning. And so these residents in this area are now able to return to their homes. We encourage all residents in the evacuation warning areas to remain prepared to evacuate. I also want to share the announcement that the areas east of Hill Road, between Main Avenue and Maple Avenue, and this includes Jackson Meadows and the neighborhoods of Coyote Estates, as well as Borrello Estates, areas east of Pete to Coyote Creek, south of Eagle View Drive, and north of Half Road, these remain under the evacuation warning. And evacuation warning, the definition is that residents are advised of a potential threat to life and property, and there is a possibility for an evacuation order, and residents should prepare to evacuate. The intersection at East Dunn Avenue and Hill Road is now open to through traffic, and there is a checkpoint that's at East Dunn Avenue at Thomas Grade Road, and that's going to remain active to ensure the safe return of our residents to their homes. Our police team will continue to patrol in the evacuation areas throughout the night. And so we'll keep that map up for a moment, and we can answer any questions about that, you know, when we go through the different reports. So how do we get the word out for the evacuations? And so we started in warning areas, and then we moved some of the areas to orders. And so how does information go out? So one is email. So both the city of Morgan Hill and the city of Gilroy have you have the ability to sign up for emails so that you can get real-time email updates. And so I just want to encourage you to sign up for the respective cities or both cities, because that is how we get information out besides social media, of course. There's also a system called Alert SCC. And so we've also been encouraging residents to sign up. And how you receive the notifications are really going to depend on how you sign up. And so you can sign up by text, by cell phone call, by LAN call, or by email. Now, some Alert SCC messages over the last few days have come from the county or CAL FIRE, but some will come specifically from the cities. And so we, the city of Morgan Hill, we have put out some of our Alert SCC messages. In addition to those methods, we've also had our police and public works teams out there in the affected area on foot. And then when we went to the order, we also used what's called an LRAD system. And so it's called a long range acoustic device system. And it's sort of like a megaphone system. And so those are all the ways that we've reached out to our public to let them know about these orders. And so at this point, what I want to do is I want to introduce to you Chief Jake Hess. And he is our Morgan Hill Fire Chief. And he is CAL FIRE's Santa Clara unit, and then the abbreviation for that is SCU Chief. And he's also the agency administrator. So Chief Hess is in charge of this fire, this SCU lightning incident. And so he's going to talk to you about the area that he's responsible for. This fire is basically, you know, when they're looking at it, they're looking at 7 different counties right now. And so he'll talk to you about that and then get a little bit more specific to Morgan Hill and Gilroy areas, as well as the unincorporated areas. And then he'll introduce you to his team as well. Chief Hess.
Thank you, Christina. That was a great information so far. I really want to just start off by thanking all of our teammates that are out there, the city of Gilroy, Morgan Hill. You're really going to hear a theme from us, and that's going to be the collaborative, cooperative effort. We've been messaging and sharing this with the community really since day one. During these, what we call mega fires, the collaboration component associated with law enforcement is in the public is absolutely instrumental. So I really thank Gilroy for being on, Chief Smithy, Bisbee, Palsgrove. Really appreciate you folks being on and being engaged and being good partners, and having those phone conversations in the middle of the night, middle of the morning, middle of the day. So really thank you for all the chiefs for being engaged. I'll just kind of start with, I'll just give you a quick update, kind of how we got here. And so as the unit chief of this CAL FIRE Santa Clara unit, that encompasses 5 counties for me of state responsibility. And then of course, Morgan Hill City and the South County Fire Protection District. So with the multiple lightning strikes, roughly, we've heard anywhere from 18 to 22 lightning strikes came through about 9 days ago, rolled through the entire state. That's unprecedented, as resources very, very quickly in our mobilization process got overwhelmed and became very lean. So the silver lining is that we did not have any wind associated with this. If you can imagine what this would have been like with an associated wind event, either directly after or days into this. We'll talk about the order here in a minute, because I would like to introduce to you my folks. But I want to talk a little bit about kind of where we are, where we're headed, in regards to the next week or so. So evacuations have been a hot topic, and if you can imagine, with now 7 counties involved with evacuations, we really are trying to encourage folks to get to our cooperators meetings, landowners, private public landowners, because evacuating folks is one piece. Repopulating folks back into this is going to be a whole nother animal, and your concerns are our concerns. And so there's an opportunity for folks. We do have cooperator meetings here at the Alameda County Fairgrounds. That's for landowners, folks who have public land owners, trustees who may have concerns associated with their property, their land. They can come here and we can have CAL FIRE Team 6, who I had ordered the first night of this lightning strike. They have a very robust team here of 60 to 70 folks who are here essentially wrapping their arms around all 7 counties of this conflagration. The coordinated efforts with law enforcement are continuing daily. Quite frankly, that's probably one of the largest components to our day-to-day operations is the evacuation piece and the information piece. We have a very robust public information officer shop, and I'll introduce to you Ryan Lubin here in a minute. And I do have sitting next to me Incident Commander Mike Blankenheim of CAL FIRE Team 6, and I'll turn it over to him in a minute to give us an operational briefing of kind of where we are in regards to the South County with this incident. I do want to reiterate to folks to go to readyforwildfire.com.org, and there are a ton of resources on that site associated with how to protect your home, home hardening techniques, evacuations. You can register your phone with CAL FIRE to get resources, to get updates for incidents throughout the state. There's maps, interactive maps on that. So I really encourage people to go to that and register your phones with Alert SCC. The evacuation piece, and we're going to say this and continue messaging this. We put evacuation orders in place because these drought-stricken fuels that we are dealing with right now on these mega-style fires, we have control over the evacuation piece because our number one priority is life safety. So that's for the public and firefighters. So we are going to be continuing to put in throughout this summer, we're going to be continuing to evacuate people, and I've been saying it a lot, more often and earlier. And you all lived it. You folks down there, the community, it is inconvenient. It is not perfect. There's the system, we're working through multiple systems through the county, reverse 911, through different emergency command centers. That information is translated multiple times. So it is not perfect, but just know that we always err on the side of public safety. And we're going to continue to do that. So we apologize if there was, if it's clunky, but believe me, every order and every warning is done for a reason. And I'm going to turn it over here to Chief Blankenheim so he can talk a little bit about the operational map here and give you an update kind of locally on kind of where we are in regards to what we call the west side of the Calaveras zone. So with that, I'll turn it over to Chief Blankenheim for an update. Christina, if you can get the map up, that would be great.
All right, good evening, everybody. Again, like Chief Hess said, my name is Mike Blankenheim, and I'm the Deputy Incident Commander of Incident Management Team 6. So we've been here now for, I think, about 7 or 8 days now, and there was a comment I heard before about this being a marathon, not a sprint, and I just want to echo my appreciation for that comment, because that's exactly right. That this is going to take us a while to get all the way around. Chief Hess referenced mega fires and some of the new kind of era we're in right now. So to make no mistake about it, the fire we're dealing with in your county and your community is probably going to end up being the first or second largest fire in the state of California's history. So clearly a significant event in California. And to top that off, this is not the only incident going on right now. There are several other incidents in the region that are of the same magnitude as this one. So resources have been at a real premium for us. Just for reference, we ran the Kincaid fire last year in Sonoma County, which is roughly 70,000 acres, and we had 5,500 firefighters assigned there. We have 1,300 firefighters assigned to this one, and like I think I heard before too, this is roughly almost 350,000 acres now too. So with that comes us prioritizing where we're going to take action and picking our points of opportunity. So kind of where we're at right now, like I said, 7 or 8 days into it, we finally had some real good success on the northwest side of this fire, meaning that we were able to finally anchor the fire off the Calaveras Reservoir and really start making progress working south down that western edge and hopefully past your communities fairly soon right now. So we're down with good solid line down to somewhere just south of the Alum Rock there, maybe a couple miles south there. of the Alum Rock Road there, meaning that we're going to position now where we can really start pushing south. So the next part of this is the fire is burning in the middle of the Henry Coast State Park. And we've been working with the park now for a few days. And again, we referenced cooperation between agencies a while ago. We finally were able to work it out with the Henry Coast State Park this morning, where they're going to let us take some action on the park boundary on the west side there. So our operations guys have been working on this for a few days, and they're starting to build fire line right now from the north, working their way south to the bottom of the Henry Coast State Park there, pretty much on the park boundary as it goes, coming almost into due south line down there. So that's going to take us a couple of days to get that in there. So we talked about the evacuation orders and the evacuation warnings. The evacuation order that came out last night was due to a wind event that we weren't 100% certain, and our meteorologists weren't 100% certain where that wind was going to come from or which direction it was going to blow. So the evacuation order last night came as under an abundance of caution to make sure that you guys were safe there if that wind did surface and blew from the north to the south and really impacted your communities. Thankfully, it did not. With that, we were able to maybe lift the evacuation order this afternoon, but I don't want anybody to anticipate that evacuation warning going away anytime soon, at least for another 5 or 6 days. It's going to take us a few days to get that dozer line built and to be able to contain that western side of the fire there. So it's going to take us a while, but I just want you to be aware that that is that is our number one priority on this fire at this point in time. The northern piece there around Livermore and Pleasanton, we've had real good success there today. So the western edge here is going to continue to be our priority and working our way down there. But again, probably taking us another 4 or 5 or 6 days to get that side buttoned up. So again, I would anticipate the evacuation warning being in effect for a few more days now.
Thanks, Mike. Also on with us is Ryan Lubin, who's one of our public information officers. And I do have to just mention that he has been working tirelessly. You can imagine how many people they are trying to wrap their arms around right now in the public information shop. It is 24 hours a day for 8 days now of they're just doing shifts and trying to push out that information and legitimate information and closing the loop and circling back, and they're constantly in and out of the incident command trailer. So he's been doing phenomenal work. But we have Ryan on with us, and we also have Assistant Chief Dwight Good, who's also with us with Morgan Hill Fire.
Okay, does that conclude your remarks, Jake?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. And so now what I'd like to do is introduce our police chief, Shane Palsgrove, and he's going to discuss security and then any other items before we do Q&A. Chief.
Good evening, everyone. I first want to start off by saying thank you to our community. They have been well prepared. They've been listening, subscribing to our newsletters, and made the evacuations very smooth because they were prepared. We really appreciate all the words of appreciation that are coming in, and it's keeping our officers and our administrative support staff going in times like this. Thank you to our city leaders who have provided us the tools necessary to make all of this happen. And thank you to our firefighters who are out there digging ditches and working every day, as well as our police staff who have been working every day since the fires have started. Our dispatchers and administrative staff providing meals for them is greatly appreciated. As far as our police staff, what we've been doing is we've divided the department into two. We have 36 sworn officers. We went from 5 patrol officers working at night to 18 police officers. Those officers were stationed at checkpoints at neighborhoods that were under evacuation orders, doing checking IDs, making sure that people going up into those neighborhoods lived there, and doing extra patrol checks with their lights on in the neighborhood to make sure that we minimized or eliminated any looting or burglaries. And so far, we haven't had any burglaries or looting reported to us at this time. Now that the evacuation order has been lifted and changed over to a warning, residents are going back to their houses, and we are still checking IDs so that people have time to get back into their houses before allowing visitors and guests and other people that don't live there up in the area. We will continue to have all of our officers working through tomorrow, ensuring that we have these extra patrols. And once the residents and houses start becoming occupied, we will reduce our staffing in accordance with people back in their places. I couldn't be more proud of our officers. They've went out of their way and removed packages that were in plain sight from the roadways and hid them in places for the owners to get them when they got back, and provided some great service during these times. So thank you very much to our firefighters and police officers and support staff during this time. And thank you again to our community for being alert and allowing us to be successful in the evacuations without having any incidences of car accidents or anybody left behind. So thank you. I'll turn it back over to you, City Manager Turner.
Great, thank you, Chief. So now what we'll do is we'll do Q&A. And so you have a couple different options. So there is a Q&A feature, so you can go ahead and type your question. I would encourage you to leave your email address as well, just in case we can't get to all the questions, we can go ahead and follow up with an email. We also have, we have a hotline that you can call, and that's another way to get your questions answered. And then if you desire to speak live, you can raise your virtual hand. If you're calling from a phone, you can dial *9 to raise your hand, and then *6 to unmute once we're ready to unmute you for any questions. And so what we're going to do now is take our live questions. And the first one is coming from Lai Pham. Michelle, if you could go ahead and unmute. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you so much for all of your work. It's certainly been, stressful, but knowing you guys are really doing everything you can, give us a lot of peace. So I just want to get your feedback, and I'll give a little bit more context about the warning that's now become warning for the Jackson Oaks area. I know that we were strongly urged to leave because it was one-way exit from Jackson Oaks, but now with the break lines, I'm trying to decide whether the warning is more severe, less severe, to decide whether we should come back and what we need to do. So if you could give us a little bit more understanding to kind of quantify or qualify this new warning level.
Great. Okay, so I'm going to ask Chief Hess to respond or point to someone else on his team to respond. What I do want to just mention is that, yes, I think the area you're referring to is Jackson Oaks, and so that was under order, and now that has moved to a warning. And so, you want to hear more about, okay, what does that warning order mean? Yes, you said I need to be ready and packed up and ready to go in the event that changes again. But is there anything else that you can offer, Chief Hess, to provide a little bit of more clarity?
Yes, absolutely. So when we transitioned originally into the warning, when we do that, we have a, fortunately, we have a room for error, or we have it's very conservative associated with the fire's perimeter. Then when we went into the order, as Chief Blinkenheim said, we had unsettled weather with the potential storm, lightning coming in. That was out of abundance of caution for the community. Now that has subsided, we have a little bit better opportunity to kind of titrate that window back into a warning, knowing exactly where the fire is right now. And we feel comfortable that if people do go back in, they do need to be ready. They do need to have their bags packed, phones registered with reverse 911. Now, if you're talking about someone who is compromised or someone who's non-ambulatory or may need some additional help in the middle of the night, something like that, then now that's up to you to kind of make that decision, because you might want to, if you have friends, family, relatives, or someplace that is accessible, that is going to be a decision that you are going to have to make. But just understand, when you go back into the warning, we plan on giving the community plenty of time to get out if that gets converted back into an order.
Thank you, Chief, and thank you for the question.
Thank you.
Our next question is coming from Sean. And you can go ahead and unmute. Sean, you can go ahead and unmute, and I think you're ready to go.
Who are they talking to?
Sean.
You haven't moved the volume down too far.
Sean, you're live. And
Go ahead.
And Sean, I think you just muted yourself, so you can go ahead and unmute, and we're ready for your question.
Go ahead, speak.
Christina, Bernie Mulligan from Holiday Lake Estates for 47 years. I have never seen such a beautiful system. I want to thank Shane Palsgrove, Chief Dwight Goody, yourself especially for coordinating this whole thing, and my friend Rich Constantine up there. How are you, my friend? Good luck to you, and thanks again. You guys have a superb system of communication. I've never seen anything like it in my life. So thank you again, and best of luck. Stay safe.
Thank you, Mr. Mulligan. We appreciate the kind words. And our next question is coming from Bill Haskell. And Bill, you can go ahead and unmute.
Yeah, I found it there. So first of all, I certainly echo the last comments. But I also wanted to say that I've, on the social media, there's a lot of things that go around and people that are saying, oh, they had people leave up in San Jose, they gave them the order, and then they back the next day, and they were just putting out there as if it was putting a lot of doubt in the professionalism of you guys, which really was upsetting, because I know that you guys are doing the best you can, and I'm impressed with the coordination between CAL FIRE and the policing organizations. And I don't think that people understand that, and if I'm wrong with this, you can please correct me, but I don't think they understand that CAL FIRE are the experts and they're making the calls, and the police are just carrying those out to the communities. So I think it's important that people kind of have that perspective. And then in that, there was and I've read the things about what we should do from the Ready, Set, Go. It's that we should lock our doors. And this is a really good example of how social media starts to confuse things. So, so that to me is what we should do, is leave our doors unlocked when we evacuate. And yet there were comments that were saying that some of these meetings were saying that, oh no, we should lock them for looters. And they were putting that on the policing forces, that they were recommending that. So it then became a confusing thing, or people having different opinions and mixing things up. So I was hoping that maybe someone could address that dichotomy of, do we lock doors when we leave or not? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pascal. I think I'm going to just first start off by saying that it is a very coordinated effort with all of the different agencies involved. And we're working alongside CAL FIRE as well as the county, and there's multiple check-in calls throughout the day. We at the City of Morgan Hill, we have one of our team members, at the Incident Command Center to help with information flow. And if the fire were to move more towards Gilroy would probably have a direct connection there as well. Now, I do also want to respond to the evacuation question. I just want to echo, because it's been stated so many times, here, and I've heard it so much from Chief Hess and his team. And the one tool that we have control over is the evacuation process, to the extent that we need to err on the side of caution and being conservative, and so we need to evacuate early. And so that's sort of what you've seen been done. And yes, social media especially can lead to a lot of confusion on what to do and what's been said and so forth. I do want to ask Chief Hess, or Chief Hess, you can ask somebody else, what is the guidance, what is the best practice about locking or not locking doors?
So honestly, I think that the door locking obviously is for security of one's home. Leaving it open was under the operational guidelines, so that folks might have to make access in to seek refuge inside of your home. Just know that law and fire folks are going to be able to get into a home if they need to seek refuge into a house. But readyforwildfire.org indicates that to leave your doors unlocked. I think it's a kind of a personal preference myself, because if public agencies need to get in, they're going to be able to make access. We encourage people to leave your lights on, which is probably more important for us as a public safety. Leaving them locked or unlocked is a little bit more of a personal preference. And there's an art and a science to evacuations in regards to the community, and there is not necessarily black and white with everything. Putting in the orders is very clear, but even with the systems that are in place, we really encourage people. We've had people who get evacuated on one side of the street and the other folks didn't get the call on the other side of the street. That system, I'm here to tell you, is not a perfect system. We encourage the public to maintain situational awareness. When you have a fire in your community, you shouldn't wait and rely on receiving a message. You have your head on a swivel, be talking to your community, looking out there, have that awareness of how long do you think it'll take for you to get out. Maybe different for some people than others. So I can't speak to the door lock as like a policy or a procedure for us. It's more of a guideline, but I would certainly leave that up to the folks, and I'm sure my law partners here would have maybe another something else to say or interpretation about securing your house.
Okay, if there's nothing further on that question from our team, we'll look to the next question, which is Faisal Jetty.
Hi, thanks for giving me the chance. Brief question, maybe one of you can answer. If anybody is evacuating from Morgan Hill and they're trying to go south, is 152 open, or are we supposed to take some kind of detour to get to I-5 south? Does any of you know that?
Christina, Highway 152 is currently open, both directions.
Thank you, Chief Hess. Our next question comes from Laura Francis Oliver.
Hi there, everybody. So it may be a little bit early to ask this question, but to anyone who may have some insight into this, I'm wondering how the fires, even for those of us who haven't been affected, with the house burning or anything, how is property insurance going to be affected with this? Are we really going to get dinged and have a lot of policies being dropped?
Thank you so much for the question. And I'm not sure that we have anyone on the call that can answer that. Go ahead and leave your email address in the Q&A or reach out to our hotline. And we'll see if we, have anything that we can offer you. I mean, I would definitely have you check in with your insurance agent or insurance broker to ask that question. But there might be some just general information available out there that we can get to you.
Hey, Christina, this is Jake. I can add just one piece to that. I think that's great advice. Also, Insurance Commissioner Lara from Sacramento, I did a town hall with him and Assemblymember Kansan Chu, and their site, I believe, has a number of resources from the California State Insurance Commissioner. I would not be able to tell you in detail of what they are. However, he was sharing some resources and websites associated with folks that live in the wildland urban interface and the associated insurance potential issues with that. So I would definitely send them that direction.
Thank you, Chief Hess. Our next question is coming from Russell Lalac.
Hi, yeah, my name's Russell. Basically, we evacuated from Jackson Oaks, and I guess we're going to go back tomorrow morning because we're in Seaside. And the question is, and you may not be able to answer it definitively, how likely is it we're going to have another evacuation order in the next few days? And before that's answered, I want to add something that people may not be aware. To anyone else who had to evacuate and incurred expenses, my insurance company told me that under our homeowner policy, they're paying for, in fact, our accommodation and a kind of per diem for food for each family member that was evacuated. So I wanted to apprise people that help may be available to their insurers as homeowners, and I'm not sure about renters, but maybe the same thing applies. So they, again, want to talk to their insurance company on that score. So again, my original question is, we want to basically want to know whether we're going to be driving back to Seaside anytime in the next few days.
Great. Thank you so much for the question, and really appreciate you giving that advice to people to check in on those things being covered. Chief Hess, do you want to just generally speak to, you know, what can change with the fire, hit on the weather, and anything else that might be, you know, cause variability in changing the orders?
Yeah, so right now there's nothing in the weather forecast that would indicate that we're going to get back to an evacuation order for your community. The weather for the next several days is favorable for your guys' community. So not anticipating anything along those lines. However, weather is weather and is unpredictable at times. So until we get real good control of the fire on that western edge, and like we talked about, you know, a few minutes ago, it's going to take us at least several days, maybe even 5, 6, 7 days to get a really solid handle on that, getting bulldozer line built through there and the firing operations put in if we need to, and the fire mopped up and those kind of things. Until that edge is 100% secured for us, I can't say that your community is going to be out of threat barring some change in the weather. But right now, the weather pattern that we're predicting over the next several days is fairly stable in the wind conditions and that sort of thing. So I am not anticipating any change in that. So I'm not anticipating going back to an evacuation for your community. However, I can't say that with complete certainty that we won't get there.
Thank you. Our next question is coming from John Constantino. And you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. I want to thank everybody also for your great performance through this crisis. My question was around the dangers of the fire spreading, and the forecasts are not not precise. So to prevent people from getting that cry wolf syndrome, how fast can a fire spread, historically, and why? Kind of explain why you create a large area of evacuation zone to kind of be, on the safe side.
This fire was so unique because of the lightning strikes. So we had 22 lightning strikes. We were able to catch some of them at smaller acreage and put those to bed up in Contra Costa County. But this 300,000+ acre fire was multiple lightning strikes that burned together. So when we talk about fire spread, even without wind, we are in an area right now on Henry Coe Park where there is no fire history. So we've had the cruise incident, which was below, and we're utilizing the cruise fire scar footprint as part of our control objectives. But in regards to the fuel out there, that fuel is drought stricken, incredibly receptive. I can't put a number on it. Chains per hour is how we calculate that. But in the first couple of burning operational periods, 24-hour periods, when we first got these lightning strikes started to burn together, the fire behavior was we would call critical rate of spread, which is very fast. Would definitely was not in a position for us to put firefighters in there to even fight the fire. This is Mother Nature is going to do what she's going to do, and we had to back folks out because it's just simply not a feasible operation to put firefighters in there. We're going to continue to see that on these fires throughout the summer, and right now we're trying to utilize bulldozers to get out in front of this fire and fight the fire on our terms is how we're looking at the next couple of weeks.
Thank you, Chief. Our next question is coming from Nick.
Thank you, Christina. First and foremost, I want to echo all the thoughts that have been expressed this evening. I mean, one will applaud, and we're most grateful for all the efforts of the city, the police department, and certainly CAL FIRE for the absolutely amazing work that you're doing. We have had a tremendous amount of community interest right now, and I'm really calling on behalf of the Morgan Hill Community Foundation to set up a campaign for the firefighters and the first responders. And in this evening's board meeting, we did declare the SCU Lightning Complex Fire a disaster for our community. We'll be working very hard with the board tonight, tomorrow, to set up on our webpage a donation page for our first responders and firefighters. And I just wanted to alert the community first to thank you for the interest in supporting our community at large with these donations. We'll be working with the city and CAL FIRE to obviously determine the best use of the campaign funds that we're establishing. But we're most grateful for the work that's been done, and more importantly, the work that will be done over the next several weeks. And as a community, we wanted to be able there to support the first responders and the firefighters that are actually caring for us. So look forward, hopefully, for a link on our webpage tomorrow under morganhillcf.org for the SCU Lightning Complex Fire, and will be more to come in the local media as far as how those funds will be used based on obviously correspondence with the city and CAL FIRE. So thank you, Christina.
Thank you, Nick. Just an awesome example of how this community comes together, both Morgan Hill and Gilroy, and covering its community members. The next question is coming from Mary. And you can go ahead.
Hi, hi, good evening. And thank you so much for all the effort you all are taking, and it's really amazing. I appreciate that. One question I had was about the boundary line. How far is the fire from Hollister, Santa Ana Road, Fairview Road, that area? Because that's kind of north of Hollister, and I'm concerned.
We'll go ahead and put up our SCU lightning map, and potentially Chief, one of the chief or his team can speak to that area that you're talking about.
Yeah. Okay, so
you should be able to see. Okay.
Yeah, there you go. So the fire is miles away from Hollister, Fairview, Santa Ana, Pinoche Road, even Lone Oak or Lone Tree, that whole Henrietta Peak. And I'll turn it over to Chief Blankenheim just to talk a little bit about how our control objectives work and how that piece is now San Benito County is in what we're kind of our working zone, if you will. And so I'll turn it over to Chief Blankenheim. He can explain as fires continue to burn how our boxes or our control objectives work.
Yeah, so thank you, Chief. So so a couple different points to kind of make here. So when we talk about control objectives for us, what that is for us is we're building a box around the area where the fire is in. And that gives us, maybe for lack of a better term, a sphere of influence where we know we're going to be working in an area that we are positive that we can keep the fire within. That lets us communicate that to our operations chief, so they have a box to work in as well. So they know that their area, they have to contain the fire or need to try to contain the fire within that box. So we generally try to make the control objective box much, much bigger than we actually anticipate the fire getting to. So we did move those control objectives again yesterday when we had the wind events coming, uncertain if we were going to be able to hold 152 if we did get a strong north wind blowing on it. So that was the reason for moving the control objectives so far south like that. So, but I want to be certain that you understand too that the control objectives are not where we want to fight fire. We are fighting fire on the edge of the fire right now, where it is up near the Henrico State Park up in Santa Clara County. We do not want that fire to cross 152 and get into San Benito County. We're going to do everything we can to prevent that. So like I said, the difference between the control objectives is not where we plan on fighting the fire at. We're fighting the fire where it is. We do not want the fire getting to Hollister and across the 152 there. We are not anticipating it doing so. However, we had to expand that box for our operations guys for contingency planning, evacuation planning, and those sorts of things. So again, no anticipation of the fire getting to Hollister.
Thank you for the question and for the response. And so our next question is coming from Mary. Oh, okay. We got you, Mary. Dana.
Good evening, and thank you all again for the great work that you're doing. I think I just had my question answered. The fire seems to be advancing on the southern and southwestern perimeters, and I was interested in what the about control objectives. So thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Our next caller is a phone number, and it last 4 digits are 9303.
Hello, this is David Albin, and Tessie and I, my wife Tessie and I are 41-year residents of Holiday Estates, and I've got a couple of forward-looking questions. These are immense conflagrations that have been going on for a very long time, and one of the things that seems to make them so terrible is uncontrolled undergrowth, which for environmental reasons seems to mistakenly be let grow wild, where the Native Americans for centuries in California contained it and did their own controlled burns. So I have 2 questions. One, what is the prognosis for us to be able to get a handle on the undergrowth before it consumes us? And in a similar vein, we're doing magnificent work right now cutting these boxes to contain the fire. And I'm just wondering whether another fine preemptive measure might be to be cutting some of these basic fire breaks in between conflagrations, because we know they come and we have terrible loss of property and life, and we got to cut the breaks anyway. So could we not, what is the prognosis for being able to clear underbrush before fires and to be able to have pre-existing fire breaks so we're not jeopardizing the crews trying to put them in under ungodly conditions?
Great question, and you've pretty much hit it on the head. We Cal Fire we actively utilize our vegetation management program, or VMP, burns during our off or peak season. During the spring, the fall times, we have a unit forester who coordinates all of those. Every Cal Fire unit is obligated to have a certain amount of vegetation management acres under prescription. Now understand, when we do these vegetation management burns, you have to have CEQA compliance. There's a whole host of archaeological, biological components to them, and we have the staff to do that. In the Santa Clara unit, runs a fairly robust vegetation management program. We partner with county parks of Santa Clara County. We've partnered with private and public landowners, and we do actively use fire. And you're absolutely right. Native Americans utilize fire for thousands of years, and we're dealing with like 100 years of fire suppression, and now we have forests that are overgrown. And at the end of the day, we've recognized the need for that understory burn. We spent $10.5 million in Santa Clara County last year on fuel reduction. That was a CCI, California Climate Investments monies, which is greenhouse gas reduction money, on the Highway 17 fuel reduction project. So, and I just want to take one more moment to, because you were right on point. We have to find targets of opportunity that protect the most amount of people for the most money. So when we look at these communities, we really have to look at how many would be impacted and what's the best use of public dollars. So that Highway 17 corridor, as an example, has 66,000 people every day in both lanes of traffic. That was definitely a point for us highlighted that needed fuel reduction. To your other point, County Line Road is a road inside Henry Coe State Park, and we maintain that road along with our state park cooperators and partners for that exact reason. So we can make access, it's a fuel break, and we have a whole host. We have battalion chief who's in charge of our fire road and fuel break systems. So we do work throughout the winter. Matter of fact, Governor Newsom has allocated 858 additional CAL FIRE firefighters into the system with an executive order. And that those firefighters in the wintertime will actually be doing fuel reduction. So we are hyper focused on fuel reduction. We cannot do enough of it, so it's not going to happen overnight, but we partner with other agencies as well. Santa Clara County Fire Safe Council, Santa Clara County Fire Department. We partnered with these folks in finding targets of opportunity. So you're on point. And for us, we do have a CWPP, which is called a Community Wildfire Protection Plan. And that involves a whole robust list of agencies throughout the county that we've prioritized these projects. So we work collectively with folks, but great question, and absolutely, yes, we do that.
Thank you, Chief. Our next question is coming from Lynn Steed. Go ahead.
Good evening, everybody. I just wanted to say thank you guys for everything you're doing. For me, I don't know if you can pull up the map. It's kind of a question about my home down there, not things in general. I was just wondering, I'm literally on the border of Half and Pete Road. And that's right there in Morgan Hill. Yep, right there where that big vacant thing is. It's all around me, but not on my, right there, exactly. Right on that corner. My home's on the bend on the opposite way. What is keeping my home from being included in the warning, and what needs to happen for it to be included in the warning?
Christine, I could chat on this. So, so when the fire service, CAL FIRE, when we put in the evacuation order, that order is articulated to in Santa Clara County to a PSAP center, primary dispatch center. That's county communications. They have a program where they're drawing these polygons within the reverse 911 system. So that is a polygon that's pre-drawn into the system, and that is one of those nuances where there is going to be a border, there's going to be a bend, someone's going to be on the edge of that. It is not necessarily something that we would change, but once again I reiterate, when those polygons are drawn, folks that live on the edge adjacent to them, or literally right across the street, if they feel like those folks actually need to be ready to leave also, because you need to have that head on a swivel and the situational awareness of your community, and it is not a perfect science based on the polygons that are drawn. When the incident commanders utilize that very conservative approach, so I wish I could tell you we would go in and change that and put you in or take you out, or we would have someone else who would want to be removed out versus put in. So when those polygons are drawn and you're not included, it's still a good idea. Anyone that lives in the city of Morgan Hill, even on the other side of Highway 101, and you have your friends, family members that are on the other side of 101, the east side, they're in a warning, it's probably a good idea for everybody in the city to just be kind of heads up and be listening and looking and chatting with your community members, having that family contact or email list or text group, because you just simply don't know. If it's not a fire, it could be something else.
Okay, our next question is coming from A. Frumis.
Hi, thank you for everything that all of you have done. We appreciate it very much. We do have a specific question. We live here in the Coyote Estates in Morgan Hill, and on the adjacent hill, there is a white pipe that we understand is a natural gas pipe. Now, in the years past, when there was a fire that came up over the crest of that hill, there was a very concerted effort to throw water and flame retardant on that so that it wouldn't rupture and explode. We understand that if that did happen, that there wouldn't be many windows left in Morgan Hill. So our question is, what are you people doing to possibly have PG&E bury that, or to do something that will protect us in case that fire does come over that hill, to to keep it from doing some severe damage to not only the local area, but also the entire city.
So what I can tell you, hold on, can you take this? This is GMT. What I can tell you is PG&E is here as a cooperator with us and is at every single one of our briefings, operations briefing, planning briefing, cooperators briefing. We see and chat with them daily. Probably every couple of hours, we're seeing them in some sort of organized cooperative manner where they are bringing their concerns, we're bringing our concerns. I cannot speak on behalf of PG&E, will not speak on behalf of PG&E, but you need to know from a safety standpoint, they are very motivated to maintain their infrastructure. And part of that would be that gas line, whether that's PG&E or not, I don't know. But their electrical and gas infrastructures, they bring in maps to us. They're embedded with us in when we do have a fire, offering very detailed infrastructure for us, so we know what is live, what is turned off, what hasn't been turned off, the life safety component. So we are aware of their infrastructure needs, but I cannot speak to that piece.
I can speak to that piece. I know that PG&E was at the cooperatives meeting at the base camp. I took a look at base camp today, and it's extremely impressive. PG&E, to your point, has checked all their pipes. Those pipes can take extreme heat, and they've taken precautionary measures to either put tardant down to ensure that the fire wouldn't get to their infrastructure, as well as trimmed the brush and ensured that the fire wouldn't create any hazards to their property.
Thank you, both you chiefs. And next, our caller is Poonam Chabra.
Hi, Christina. Thank you so much. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I have my headset on. You know, first of all, I'd really like to thank CAL FIRE, the police department, and the city staff for a job absolutely really well done. And then on behalf of the Indian community. So we have a lot of seniors who were in the evacuation order zone. And for them to evacuate in a timely manner, that has been really, really great. So I just have a couple of questions. The first one, will Cerbrado High School still continue to be an evacuation resource center? And the second question is for CAL FIRE. Are you going to be accepting any donations in the form of meals or supply kits for our firefighters? Because our Indian community really would love to give back and bring some homemade meals for all of you.
Thank you so much for the questions. As for Cerbrado, yes, Cerbrado is set up as an evacuation resource center. It's not a shelter, but it's a place where people that might need resources can go and find out which sort of resources are available. And so we don't have, a timeline as to when that will stay open, but for the foreseeable future, it will be staying open. And as for donations, that's a one that just shows our community cares. And we've, talked with CAL FIRE, and CAL FIRE is not in any need of, water, snacks, meals for their crews, while they're very appreciative. And, there's a couple other organizations that are available out there. Cadre is one of them. And you heard about Morgan Hill Community Foundation is another, and we're working on others that we might be able to post that are available, and perhaps there's others that might be in the Gilroy area as well. And our next question is coming from Farouk Dibu. And you can go ahead and unmute.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you. Many thanks to CAL FIRE, the police, and all the services. We are in the county, North Gilroy, San Martin area, near Santa Teresa and Fitzgerald. And there's quite a few fields between us and even the warning evacuation area. My question is, these open fields, they have different crops and things. do they really provide a good buffer right now in terms of peace of mind? What is your opinion from the fire point of view?
Are you referencing the agricultural fields? Okay, I believe you're referencing the agricultural fields in Gilroy, San Martin. Yeah, those are absolutely great fuel breaks, what we would call that, where the fire would definitely decrease in energy as it were to hit something like that with the bare mineral soil or the live crops that are in there. We utilize those quite often when we're utilizing control lines, and we'll run a fire into an area that has green, really green vegetation, like around someone's home who's been irrigated very well. But yeah, absolutely, that would be considered a safe area.
Thank you, Chief. Our next caller is Nicholas Smith.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hey, thank you guys for all you do. You've been just phenomenal. I have a question about, my home is up near the Hunting Hollow entrance of Henry Coe Park. We've been evacuated since Friday, I think, but I know somebody that's still up there. Apparently CAL FIRE, you have tried to get into the Hunting Hollow entrance to create some fire breaks, and the Henry Coe Park officials have not allowed that. So A, is this true? I know you're staging now at Palsgrove at the Stone House. Is this true? And if so, what can we do to get that decision reversed? I guess it also happened on Dunn Avenue earlier, but it seems like a travesty that we can't get in to suppress, to prepare for the fire. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your question. And there was some on those lines, and we did look into that. Chief Palsgrove, do you want to mention from our perspective here what we found, and Jake may have some to add?
I couldn't hear you. Could you repeat the question?
Yeah, absolutely. So the question is about Coe and whether there was any issues getting CAL FIRE into the park to do their work.
No, we were hearing on Facebook and Nextdoor that there is issues, but no, there was no issues from our standpoint. Once CAL FIRE responded to that area, they went straight up to Henry Coe Park and started stationing their equipment up there.
Chief Hess, is there anything else that you would want to add or that you know about?
Absolutely. We had heard pieces and parts of some social media fodder associated with state parks and not allowing CAL FIRE. So state parks, they do have their own policies and procedures associated with mechanized equipment inside Henry Coe Park. You look at the park's roughly 85 to 90,000 acres, and there's about 16,000 acres of open wilderness there. They are great partners with us. We have been meeting with them every day for the last few days and collaborating and finding targets of opportunity in their park. And quite frankly, they have been incredible to work with. And we have dozers in there right now, actually putting in a pretty significant fuel break with 60 feet of dozer line, which is a very large dozer line. Now, is that ideal for them to have dozers in there 60 feet off of a road? No, because of fire suppression repair, rehab issues moving forward. But they understand the magnitude of this fire. They've been great cooperators, partners with us, and they've been pretty flexible and willing to work with us. Now, we're at first, the natural question is, well, how do we keep it out of the park, and can we do this, and what are our different options? But I have to say they are at the table working with Chief Blankenheim and CAL FIRE Team 6, and that is where they are. We have dozers in there right now, and so the next couple of days we will see how this plan unfolds and as moving forward on that west side.
Thank you, Chief. We have one more caller, Natasha.
Hey guys, I would just like to know if when we do evacuate, do we turn our gas off, or does PG&E keep an eye out on that and shut down the neighborhood if necessary?
Great question. I'll protect Chief Hess.
Chief, good, you can jump in here. This is your expertise, but your answer is don't turn it off, and Chief Good will let you know why.
Thank you, sir. There are a couple of questions that come up, and some of the guidelines or some of the guidance that's available on the internet is a bit dated. Like with the locking the doors, firefighters will not enter your home unless it's on fire, basically. Looters would. The police chief will support locking your doors when you leave, and we will certainly agree with that. As far as turning the gas off, we really have no statistical basis to support turning your gas off when you leave as a precautionary measure. We do have volumes of data from PG&E telling us how long it takes them to turn the gas back on and light all the pilot lights and test all the systems at all the homes, and that it can delay repopulation of an evacuated area by days or even weeks, depending on the size of the community. For those reasons, we would not encourage you to turn your gas off when you leave during an evacuation for a fire.
Great, thank you. Okay, so going into the Q&A, we have an anonymous question. Can you chat about the assets, airdrops? What does it look like on the ground? How far is the fire safe from the dam for the prospective sake? Is it about 10 to 12 miles away? So Chief Hess, the first question in this is, can you talk about sort of what's fighting the fire? I mean, we've talked about bulldozers, what about the air assets? And then just any perspective about how far away the fire is from us, both in Morgan Hill and Gilroy.
I'll have Chief Blankenheim just discuss the resources first.
Yeah, so as far as the resources go, we, well, like we talked in the original comments there, that we don't have nearly as many of anything as that we would like to have, but we do have some of everything. So the primary focus right now is building fire line around it, and we're doing that primarily with the bulldozers. That's going to let us remove the vegetation and create the fuel breaks and that sort of thing. We always follow that up with hand crews and fire engines to get hose on the ground and that sort of thing. And we do have bulldozers, fire engines, and hand crews here. And we do get aircraft over the fire every day. We have somewhere between, depending on the day, because it changes every day depending on other priorities in the area, somewhere between 4 and 8 helicopters assigned to our fire every day that can drop both water and retardant on the fire. And then the same thing with the fixed wing aircraft, both the air tankers and the large air tankers, and then the very large air tankers, the DC-10s and the 747s. Those get prioritized every morning based on whose fire has life threat and then structure threat on it. So for the last few days, we've had good air to fly the aircraft, and we've been able to demonstrate that we have a real life safety issue on the west side of that fire. So for the last couple of days, we've been very successful in getting the very large air tankers in there. And we built the large retardant line, like we talked before, the anchor point up there on the Calisveras Reservoir, working south down towards you guys. We have been able to lay retardant along that entire ridge line all the way down towards where you guys are at. So we have a mixed bag of all the resources that we normally use on a fire with bulldozers, hand crews, fire engines, and aircraft. Just unfortunately, just not nearly as many as we would like to have.
So another question that has been asked about the percentage containment and the noting that we've been at 10% for quite a while. So can you talk about how containment is measured and when we can expect to see the 10% number go up?
We're going to start seeing that number go up fairly quickly here, and it'll go up in unfortunately small increments, probably 5% a day, maybe kind of somewhere in that neighborhood. And the way we do that is we want to be absolutely certain that when we call a piece of line contained, that we are absolutely certain the fire is not going to escape out of there. So that really means that we've got some kind of control line around it, whether it be from a bulldozer or a hand crew, and we've done what we call mopping it up. We've followed it up with the fire engines and the ground resources to make sure that we've taken care of all the hot spots along that piece of line there. So we're absolutely certain nothing is going to escape out of that control line. So that's the standard we use before we call that piece of line contained. So again, it is a time-consuming process, and a fire of this magnitude, it's going to take us a while to get black line on the map all the way around it.
Can we speak to air quality?
Yeah, I've been chatting with the other agency administrators from Sonoma Lake Napa. My partner, Shauna Jones, is a unit chief up there. My other partner to the west, Ian Larkin. We have been just really recommending that folks chat with the County Office of Emergency Services or the Public Health Office in regards to air quality. We have some reports that we have now. A couple of the teams to the south of us We're able to get air quality information that they put out, some air quality folks, I don't know if it was Bay Area air quality or Monterey Bay air quality. We're able to put out some measuring devices, but we don't send anything out that the public health officer or the county public health or the county office of emergency services would be putting out that information.
Great, thank you. Okay, looking at our questions. The Morgan Hill Community Group posted a heat map about 4 hours ago, and the ucant.edu site showed the heat of the hottest fires in sort of an arrowhead formation heading roughly west-southwest towards San Martin. Wind should be push east, but the fire seems going a little bit in the opposite direction. So I think this is sort of a question about the direction of the wind and what we can assume based on the direction of the wind. Now, these are references to other maps, and so I think the first thing that would be said is, we really think that you should be relying on the CAL FIRE Interactive Map as the official map. But with that said, Chief Hess, can you kind of talk about the direction of the wind and what it means for us?
In that map, they may be picking up some internal topographic runs. Some fire gets an intensity, runs uphill faster as it pre-treats the fuel out in front of it. We have a lot of open country, tens of thousands of acres out there where the fire is. And most likely that's probably some sort of energy that's been picked up and recorded on the map. The basic edge of that Calaveras zone on that western side of the fire, where we are kind of laser focused with our resources for the communities at risk right now, there hasn't been a lot of growth, as you've seen over the last few days, on that western edge. We have a lot of resources in there, and quite frankly, the winds are kind of in our favor, if you will, like that west wind, where it's not. That's where we were concerned of the Alameda County side as the storm came in. It was kind of favorable for San Martin, Gilroy, Morgan Hill area. So you haven't seen a lot of huge growth on that western edge.
Thank you. So there's a question about the dam, and is it possible for the dam to rupture if the fire goes to that area? And so can we speak at all to our thoughts about what happens if the fire goes in that direction?
Yeah, we can't speak on behalf of the dam, but it hasn't been a huge concern in regards to damage to a heat damage, if you will, to the dam. We've have that the cruise fire that we're utilizing that's closer to that as a potential fuel break, but we have no known issues, or that's not something that we are ever worried about in regards to fire damaging infrastructure in regards to a large dam like that.
Okay, thank you. We have a question for the Gilroy area, and so I'll look to Chief Bisbee on this one. And this relates to whether the firefighters will utilize the fire hydrants to fight the fire and manage the use of the fire hydrant system. So once again, it's specific to the country estates area.
Yeah, we will. As long as the water system is still active, we have power in the area running the pumps, we have the capacity in the storage tanks, then yeah, definitely hydrants are a very valuable resource that we use a lot. In the absence of hydrants, we'll use water tenders, which are the tanker trucks, but by and large, hydrants serve us very well.
Great, thank you. I want to have one question that's coming up in a few different of the questions. Chief Hess, to have you address the resource question a little bit more and sort of how this priority fits in with the other priorities of the state. And then after that, if you want to just say a few, any closing words to this group.
Christine, I'm sorry, the question was about
yeah, there was just a few questions in the Q&A just about, how does CAL FIRE, how does the state prioritize resources? There's fires everywhere. Ours seems to be big. How is it decided where the resources go and when.
Yeah, I'll have Mike chat a little bit about our daily kind of check-ins with the resources regionally.
Yeah. So again, like in the region now, that I think it's obvious there's a finite pool of firefighting resources, and all the same kind and type that we talked about a few minutes ago. There, limited number of fire engines, bulldozers, hand crews, aircraft, both fixed wing and helicopters. So when there's just a single fire going in the area, it's not usually concerned about getting resources to the fire, but we know that's not always the case, and it's not uncommon for us to have fires going in separate areas at the same time. This is a little bit of a unique situation because the fires going right now are just so massive. I don't know that we've seen a resource drawdown like this in the past, but the way the process works is all the incidents have the same needs. All the fires need aircraft, all the fires need hand crews, they all need bulldozers, they all need aircraft and those kind of things. So with a finite pool, there has to be a clearinghouse. We have to be able to set priorities to how we're going to allocate the resources around the region. And that's called the MAX process. And it happens between all the firefighting agencies up at the headquarters up in the northern part of the state. So every morning there's a conference call between the incident commanders and the unit chiefs where all the incidents going on to discuss their current situation, their current threats, their current dangers, their current priorities. And then there's a decision made on how those resources on a daily basis, sometimes even twice a day, are going to be allocated between the incidents. So I guess the short answer would be we prioritize based on life safety, infrastructure, property, that kind of thing. And the incidents that have the most current threat on a daily basis will get allocated more resources for the current operational period. So it's not a chess game, but there's a lot of moving pieces that happen every day. So we're constantly reevaluating priorities between incidents and again, taking life and property ahead of everything else. So the incidents that can demonstrate the real need for that day, that have real threats to life and property, are going to get more allocated resources that particular day. But like I said, that changes every day, and there's constantly shuffling of resources back and forth between the incidents to make sure those life threats and property threats are really handled as best we can.
Thank you.
And Christina, that changes from day to day too, depending on what the fire is doing, and also they grade on like archaeological sites, also some other biological sites as the fires start to get out of that life threat zone. So we're pretty detail oriented when we were putting in in really pitching the case, if you will. Each incident commander is really motivated to get as much information on that multi-agency coordinating group's information to send up the food chain so that we can get as many resources as we can.
And I'd just like to add too that over the course of this incident here, I think of the 11 or 12 major fires going in the part of the state right now. Every day, the complex we're working on here has either been the first, second, or third priority for all resources each day. So this incident is a priority, and it has been every day to get resources.
Thank you. We're going to go ahead and take one more caller that's calling in, and then we will say a few closing remarks, and then we'll go ahead and end for this evening. We have Thomas Vetter. And you can go ahead and unmute yourself. Thomas, are you able to unmute yourself? Okay, if you can hear us, I just would encourage you to send in your question to our hotline or email it into either of the cities. So at this point, I just wanted to really thank everyone for coming out tonight, both the participants as well as the attendees. It's great for all of our agencies to collaborate and work together. I want to thank our mayors for joining us, and I also want to thank our many council members that have joined us from both the cities of Morgan Hill as well as Gilroy that have been supporting us through this. And so I just want to once again just encourage you to sign up for email updates through both of the cities, as well as make sure that you're signed up for Alert SCC. In addition, I just wanted to plug, we have testing tomorrow for COVID-19, and that's at our council chamber. We're just doing it a couple times a month with the county. It's by appointment only. You can go ahead and get signed up, and I know that Gilroy continues to offer that on a daily basis. And so we need to make sure our South County gets tested. And so with that, once again, thank you, and take care, everybody, and stay safe. Good night.